What's up guys, Rob, also known as HeartNana here. Welcome to the second video in my character, Nobody Asks for This, strategy guide. So in this strategy guide I'll be focusing on Tenten, who is a very fast, agile, and powerful zoner in this game. Also, shoutouts to the watermark. Alright, so let's get started. Why should you play Tenten? Well, she's quick. She moves fast. She has fast moves. She's one of the best zoners in the game. She zones really well with this. She has trap, things like this. She can keep the opponent at bay with a variety of techniques. And her air game is very strong too. She can be very far away and still hit for a lot of damage with kunais, and she has good jump B as well. Her B strings, she also has flips. It can be quite difficult to punish for opponents. So if you kind of like having this option that makes her agile, then she's really quite difficult to hit. And despite being a strong character with strong air moves, good ground moves, good far away game, good close-up game, she's also got quite high damage. So a regular combo, she has a lot of damage potential. Like, I didn't even do the optimal version and I almost killed Naruto. She can combo into her super pretty easily as well. Next, her weak points. So Tenten's biggest weak point is probably Itachi, because Itachi just shuts down Tenten so hard that he's kind of in his own category. If Tenten is doing kunais and Itachi just does dump A, he'll hit her. So no matter where she is on the screen, if she's trying to get close, if she's trying to just do something, Itachi can just jump away and jump A. If Tenten does BBA, Itachi can just jump and pretty much doesn't care that she's on the other side. So it's quite difficult for Tenten to really do anything, and even if she's trying to just poke at him from far away, because he's doing stuff like this, even if she wants to poke at him from far away, all that he has to do is a back A, and then he's right behind her. So he really doesn't have to do that much effort to get in against her, and she can't really get in against him. So this matchup alone means that a lot of Tentens will lose in tournaments to Itachi players who can play very patient and just do a lot of jump A. Her next weakness is her back B is quite low damage. While it does get the opponent away, which is the important thing, there's no damage that goes beyond what you just saw there. It's just a single hit. It's a single shoulder. It's not a great 4B, but I'll talk about it more later. And another weakness is she has low health, she has 200 health, which is the third lowest value in the game. The lowest value is One-Tailed QB Naruto and Kankuro, who have 180 health. And the characters with the most health are Choji, Jidoru, and Jiraiya at 240. So Tenten and her sealed Sasuke have 200. So her health is pretty low. She can't really take too many hits before she just, dies. So that's one thing. You're going to have to do a lot more hits to your opponent because they have more health. And her guard bar is also pretty weak. She can get guard broken quite easily. And also her ground strings, they're a bit weak. You can't really pressure shields with them because they just don't do enough guard damage. And she doesn't really have long strings that allow you to pressure. Your opponent really just has to sit there and do absolutely nothing for 5 to 10 seconds in order to guard break up. But she's still a very strong character overall. Next, let's get into her move list. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about her B string because there's a lot of information that goes along with it. So this is her first B. Her first B has a 13 frame startup and the hitbox starts on the 14th frame. So as far as jab speed, it's pretty average. Guy and Lee have faster jabs and a bunch of characters have slower jabs at 15 frames. So her jab isn't a bad thing. The distance traveled is, average as far as the cast is concerned. It's neither good, it'll whip from far enough away, but it's not bad where she could still be a decent distance away from the opponent and hit them. The recovery on her B is 27 frames, which is quite short as far as standing Bs. But you're rarely just going to do a standing B and nothing, so that's not too relevant. However, if we go into the second hit of her BB, it has a 20 frame cooldown, and that's quite fast. So in both scenarios, her B and her BB recover faster than most of the other characters in the cast. And she also travels quite far, which is more than half the cast in terms of travel distance, in her second B as well. So that can also be used, even if the first one whiffs, to still hit the opponent. So, what does this information mean, though? What does that mean that it recovers in 20 frames? Well, like all characters, BB is probably her fastest move, and it's just a solid punch. Quick, moves her forward, recovers quickly. It's kind of everything you need in a generic B. And it recovers quick enough that a BB can easily punish an L teleport. She finishes so quickly that your opponent goes, okay, I'm gonna teleport here, haha, and then they just get thrown. And then they die. Right? So the damage potential from her B string is also really high because of a buff made to her shoulder. So if you look at the last hit of this move, they now fly up in the air. In vanilla GNT, the last hit of her B, the shoulder, did the same thing as her 4B. It just sent the opponent flying across the screen with 0 combo potential. So the 5th hit of BBBBB, which is also the 3rd hit of forward BBB, and the 2nd hit of 8BB, they're all of the things I'm going to say apply to all 3 of those moves. So the 5th hit now launches the opponent up in the air. So now the max damage that she can get from a standing B is quite high because she can Y cancel it and then go into a regular combo. So before, she used to only get, this much damage, and that's the maximum amount of damage she could get from a B string without meter. Now, by using meter, she can just cancel and get way, way more damage, which makes her a lot scarier. Also, if you have too few hits, you can even combo into super. It's difficult to do if you have all 5 hits, but it is possible against some characters. And if you have the help of a wall, you can combo into, from all 5 hits, from the first hit into super. It's a bit difficult to do mid-screen though. So, now that she has high potential off of her B, hitting with a B is a lot more important. In vanilla, it used to actually be almost a better option to do 4 hits and then either go for a throw or a down B mix-up. So this means that Tenten's potential damage off of a 5 BB without using any meter is close to 80-90%, and it gives the opponent a reason to want to teleport. So if your opponent gets hit by BB in the previous version, they're like, well, it's only going to do 20% damage, I don't need to teleport. But now if you hit it, they're going to go, oh no, this could be a big combo, I better get out of this. And then that can actually lead into more damage. So having a high potential for damage is a big buff to this character. Alright, so now let's talk about BB on block and what are your options. So, just like every string in the game, you can stagger and still combo. So B, stagger. I'm not doing those buttons as fast as I can. I'm waiting a bit and everything still combos. So, what that means is on block, you can actually make the opponent want to interrupt you, and then you can get a combo from them. But one thing to be careful of, the 4th hit whiffs against tech crouching, so if the 3rd hit hits the opponent and they're in a crouch state, like Neji's forward AY, then what's going to happen is the 4th hit is going to whiff and Tenten will not be able to combo. So just be careful about that on hit. So even if you're staggering and your opponent tries to do a move that crouches, you're going to whiff and your combo's not going to hit. It's going to be a real feel-bad option. So BB doesn't always work if you stagger because of the way the crouch hits work. But in general, it will combo even if you stagger. So off of B, you have a flip. You have BA. BA is very easy to punish. It requires very little work because there's no kunais or anything. You can just turn around and throw her. You can just punch her. You can really just do kind of whatever you want. What it gets more difficult for the opponent is when you're doing BBA, because you have to sidestep. You can't just turn around and punish because you're going to get hit with ninja stars in the face. And a great part about BBA is if your opponent is standing there guarding, they can block it. If your opponent jumps, they can block it. But a lot of opponents, they hold back to block, right? So if you're holding back to block, it actually hits you for 2 hits. So a lot of times I've gotten my opponent to about a pixel of life, and then I've just done BBA, and because they're holding back to block, they end up actually getting hit by it and losing the round. So it is a bit cheap, but it's a good option. If your opponent teleports also, like say your opponent they have a difficult time punishing. Your opponent can, however, punish with a quick running sidestep if they L teleport the first hit of your BB and you do BBA. If you do it a little slow, then what's going to happen is your opponent will have more than enough time to recover and running sidestep and do a dash attack. But one risk to that is if you do that and then your opponent tries to do their dash attack and you land, you can block, and generally most dash attacks are throw punishable. So I'll show a couple clips. One is of the dash attack working and punishing Tenten's BBA, and the other is the dash attack going off a little too slow, Tenten blocking and punishing with a throw. One way that your opponent can punish the BBA is if they have an air throw. So if they have an air throw, they can anticipate that you're going to do the jump, and they can air throw you. But if you look at the timing, you have to literally know that the opponent is going to do the BBA and jump as soon as they do, or jump with them. So what's going to happen is if your opponent's like, oh, they're going to do BBA, and you're like, okay, BBA. Oh, wait, that was a BBB and I just hit you. So it's risky to punish that, but if you absolutely know that the BBA is coming, you can punish with an air throw. But again, not all characters have an air throw, and it's quite actually difficult to punish BBA without on block without an air throw. I don't really think there's a lot that most characters can do. You can sidestep and not get hit with the kunai, but aside from sidestepping, she's so far away and there's projectiles in between her and you when you sidestep, and she recovers so quick that you're just not going to really be able to punish regularly. So Tenten players can generally just get away with just doing BBA, BBA, BBA spam and not having to worry about it on block. On whiff, of course, it's easier to punish because, you know, she can whiff it and just end up, you know, right in front of you. And of course, if she whiffs it and you know, you can throw her, you can running dash attack her, whatever. But generally, Tenten should not do that on whiff. So while BBA is difficult to punish, there are actually a couple of things you can do against it. So if you're mid-screen and your opponent has a long-range super, you can just sidestep and then punish it with the super. However, if you're closer to a wall, then you have more options. Because Tenten can do BBA, you can jump block and then throw the opponent. In addition, if you step correctly, you might even be able to punch the opponent. But it's not nearly as reliable, as you can see, because she actually just does recover so quickly. And she does sometimes go a little far away. So while it's not impossible to punish, it is not easy to punish either. So if you are playing as Tenten, don't always do BBA if you're too close to the wall. And if you're playing against Tenten, be careful about sidestepping it and if you have the wall there, then take advantage of your chance to punish. Speaking of on whiff, so on whiff she can do B, 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 but she can't go beyond that. And she can do all of the A strings attached to that as well. So B, 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 A, it's the same as B, B, A. She has one more option though with the A button. If she does B, B, down A, she'll do an empty jump, and then at the very end she'll throw some kunai. So what happens is it sometimes catches steppers. But generally, I don't really like this as an option because if your opponent just walks forward, they can get out of it. It's just not a great option. It does track running sidestep, but it's just so much more unsafe. And to be honest, BBA is just so much safer. And if your opponent, doesn't punish you and they end up running into you with a blocking move and you get a free throw, BBA is just more than good. So on whiff, you can do BBA, B, BA, which is great because sometimes your opponents just teleport the first hit of BBB, and you're just trying to get out of their string and move forward a little. Like for example, my opponent, who is not going to guard, will now teleport. Right. So it's sometimes it's nice to be able to whiff a few hits and be able to do the A. So if you whiff the 4th hit, you can't do the 5th hit. But if you do all 4 hits, then you can do the 5th hit, even on block. Right, so be careful, because the 4th hit can be tech jumped under. But generally, you're not going to want to do the 4th hit on block, because the 4th hit is unsafe on block. If your opponent knows that you're going to stop there, they can just punish, or they can throw you, or whatever. And the 5th hit is extremely unsafe on block. Your opponent can really just do whatever they want there. So, you should definitely be careful when going past BB and BBB. If you do go for all 5 hits, you try to stagger, and you're like, my opponent's definitely going to try to punch me here. You deserve the hit. And if your opponent blocks all 5 of your hits, they deserve to punish you heavily. So just be careful. I do sometimes personally attempt to stop at the 4th hit, just because, again, if you never do it, then your opponent will think, oh, it's not an option. And then after the 3rd hit, they'll start to react to what you're doing. So sometimes you want to throw the 4th hit out just to show them, hey, I'm not scared to do this other hit. I'm not scared to do the 4th hit. I'm not scared to do unsafe moves, because then I can get full combos off of them. And the damage potential for hitting with the 4th and the 5th B is quite high because you can cancel it, as I showed earlier. So because the damage potential is high, it's worth doing sometimes. And even if you hit with the 4th hit, the shoulder's always steppable anyways. There's not really any other options you can do. You can't do BBBBA because there just doesn't exist. You can't really step the 4th hit, but the 5th hit always on block you can step. So, let's talk about sidestepping her B string. So on block or in neutral, sometimes opponents will sidestep. So how good is it versus a sidestep? Well, in general, BB is one of the best ways to punish a sidestep. Like, my opponent does sidestep, and if I do it at the right time, it'll hit. But if I do it and then my opponent sidesteps, then they will be able to get out of it. And they really have to sidestep multiple times. But because you can do BBBA on whiff, even if my opponent sidesteps 3 times, I'm still pretty safe and I end up far away from them. So even if you try to sidestep, punish, it's still very difficult because I can see, oh, you're sidestepping, let me just jump over you with the BBBA. And that's, again, one of Tenten's strengths, is being able to just cancel her B and just flip away from the opponent with a couple of kunai to keep her safe. Like, they don't do much damage, but they don't really need to do much damage. Their purpose is just to keep her safe and to keep the opponent from hitting her. So, while you can sidestep her strings, I really don't think that there's a reason to, except for the last hit, because the last hit is just bad. But the last hit is also really bad on blocks. There's no reason not to even just block and punish. But generally, BB is one of the best ways that I punish running sidestep. So if my opponent's trying to running sidestep at me, because they do, because against Tenten, you just want to sidestep a lot to get around her jump moves. If they're running sidestep at me, BB is one of the ways that I just punish it. And a lot of characters too. With all the other characters I play, my opponent's running sidestep. My first punish option is generally a BB. So, I'd like to talk about backturned. BB against the backturned opponent is very, very bad. So, if you look, none of the hits combo with each other. The third and the fourth hit do combo, as you can see, but the first and the second hit, they don't combo. Your opponent can actually move between those hits. Same with between the second and third. And of course the last hit is slow and doesn't combo. So what can your opponent do? Sometimes they can just run forward out of your moves. If you do a little mini dash and Tensen's hitting with Bs from behind, you can actually get out of everything. If you're like Neji and you have a really fast move, then it's really easy to get out of everything. But the big problem is that even if the first 4 hits work, the last hit is sidesteppable. And because it's sidesteppable, I can't rely on it in a game. And my opponent can punish that easily with they sidestep and they just hit a B button and they can easily punish. So I actually do not suggest doing BB against a backturned opponent. Especially ones that they could just do a punch and get out of it. Like Neji probably doesn't even have to do forward A, he can probably just standing B and move himself forward out of Tenten's backturn strings. So overall, don't use BB against backturn opponents, and if you do, definitely don't go past 4 hits. The only exception is if your opponent is backturned and they're in the corner. If your opponent is backturned in the corner, then there's nothing that they can do to get out of it. They will just be hit with 5 hits. Because even if they try to sidestep because they're in the corner, they will not be able to. And then what happens is you just get you just step back and then you get your own combo again. So I know that this happens a lot, this scenario where your opponent hits you, you teleport, and then you just want to hit them with the fastest move you can and you start mashing the B button. And I want to say that is a really bad habit with Tenten. If you're behind your opponent and they're facing the other way, do not do the B string. There are other strings that she can do back turn. I'll talk about them later. But first, I'm just going to say right now, 2BB and 8B are my strings of choice, with a bit of 6B if my opponent is really far away, because they all connect. I'll get into all of those later, but the main point I want you to learn from this is don't do BB against backturn opponents. 4 hits is forgivable, because you're still safe. Your opponent's not really going to be able to punish, but you shouldn't do the 5th hit. It's really punishable, and you're going to lose a lot of games from it. The next move I'm going to talk about is her 6B. This move is okay. It's got a decent range for a standing normal. It goes a few characters, and it combos into her 2nd hit, unnatural hit. And as you saw, the shoulder now allows her to combo afterwards, so it's pretty good. The flip up, she can combo into down B directly without having to cancel, which is great for gaining chakra. And it's just a great way to combo in general, because that's kind of one of the best ways to get a lot of meterless damage is just by doing this over and over and over again. I have one big issue with 6B, and that's if your opponent tech crouches, the flip will whiff. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to do 6B, B. Oh, wait, it whiffed and I got hit. However, if you wait slightly, it does combo. So if you're doing BB and you're just gorilla mashing it, it's not going to combo. If you delay it every time, though, it will combo, even if your opponent is doing a crouching move. I will say it's very difficult to get used to this timing, though. It's difficult to get used to having to wait a bit to hit, because you see something hit, and you know it's going to hit, especially if it's counter hit. So seeing that hit, but then not getting it, is actually going to happen so often. But if you really can get the timing well, then it might actually be worth learning, because that can actually save you, and sometimes that's the difference between a win and a loss. So it's just something to be careful about. If it helps you even one match ever, knowing that, oh, I hit with the 6B, I should delay it slightly, you know, then it's worth watching this guide, I think. Alright, and again, as I said earlier, this move, the shoulder is the same as the 5th hit of 5BB, so I'm not really going to go into it. Her other option is forward BBA, where she does hit into a flip into some kunai. I don't think it's that great, because even if you combo there, I just did 11 hits, and look at how much damage that 11 hits did. Now, if I do 11 hits using this, look at how much more damage I just did. So, you can't, because 4 of the hits are kunai, you can't really get a ton of damage off of it. And if you're going to bait your opponent, so your opponent, they do this weird move, and then they do this flip, and then they look unsafe, but then they toss kunais. Oh, they got me with their mix-up. Oh, they delayed it. I didn't know about that. I took a pixel of damage. You know, look at that little tiny bit of damage. It's insignificant as far as I'm concerned. So if you're going to bait your opponent doing something after that, especially just do the flip. Because at least the flip you can Y cancel. And then you can at least combo off of it. So it's not super safe on block. But 6BB is pretty safe on block. I'm going to talk about 8B on its own more later. But for now, what you should know about the flip is that it can be punished by throw. Just walk forward a little and throw. If your opponent is going to throw, then you delay the 3rd hit. And you can get your free combo there. You can technically punish the flips with punches. It's quite difficult though. A lot of times, a forward B will whiff. So if you time it absolutely correctly though, you will be able to hit her. Yeah, like that. That was the absolute correct timing, but it took about 10 tries before I actually got the correct timing. So it's pretty hard to punish. So generally you can probably do 6BB and be mostly safe. And if you think your opponent's going to do something afterwards and throw, then you cancel into the shoulder and you hit them. So don't do 6BBA. I don't think that it's a good move. Even on hit, it doesn't do that much damage. Just low potential, it's hard to combo from, and even 6BB without meter, it's so easy to combo from. Just do a down B. And I'm going to talk about 6B backturned. So backturned, it's a fine move, because for some reason, even though BB doesn't connect against backturned opponents, 6BB does. As you can see, it does 3 hits. And you know, they flip around again, so they're really easy to combo. There's no weird, oh, they're back turned, so it's hard to combo them, because they turn around and front flip when they go in the air. So, one thing though is it is pretty bad on whiff. So if you go to do a back turn punish with forward B, and your opponent jumps it, you're not in a great spot. So it's not too difficult to punish and run away from. That's the problem with it, is it's easy to jump, and moves that are really easy to jump but not super quick against backturned just aren't the best options usually. So it's okay if your opponent is like, haha, I do something super punishable from backturned, then yeah, you can do forward BB to punish it, especially because forward BB has more range. Something you don't have to worry about is you don't have to worry about tech crouches from backturned, because for some reason tech crouching just doesn't work backturned. So that's one good thing. So 6B is alright. I wouldn't use it on block too much. It's not a great pressure tool. It's good mostly if you see a whiff and you want to just punish their whiff. But I wouldn't use it too often, aside from that. But it's a good tool that you should implement when you see an opening for it. Another use that I found for it is after a throw, generally you want to do jump B and then go into your combo from there. However, a lot of times, if you do jump B, then your opponent will see the jump and they'll teleport, and then they're safe. So what you want to do is you want to sit there and make them think, okay, well, they're not going to punish me. Because a lot of times I see in tournaments and casual matches all the times, someone does a throw and their opponent just falls. They don't let their opponent combo. They're like, I'm not scared, you're not going to combo. People bait the teleport, fine. So it's really easy to see, oh, Tenten jumps, okay, now I'm going to combo. Now I'm going to teleport. I'm going to KNJ. So if you do 6B, then what you can do is you can stay on the ground and take a step back if they teleport. Take a step back, oh, you teleported, throw. Or you throw, take a step back, and they don't teleport. And then you move forward and you do forward B to combo. So either way, you kind of do a mini option select. If they teleport right away, then you can turn around and throw them. And if they don't teleport, then you do a forward B. So, but again, if you walk backwards too much, then the forward B is not going to hit, so be careful. You have to just take a quick step back, and then if you take the quick step back, and during that time, your opponent teleports, that's when you turn around and throw them. Otherwise, you just let them fall, or you do the forward B at the end. And forward B, again, long range, longer range than it seems. It's quite deceptive. So it's actually a great thing to use after a throw. It's really easy to combo with. So that's another use for 6BB. Next, I'm going to talk about her down BB and her down BA. Down BB, down BA. These are her next best set of ground moves. So down BB and down BA, they start with this down B, which tech crouches. So it goes under certain punches. And if your opponent throws a lot of BB, then doing down B to go under it, especially at this range, will get you a lot of hits. And you can get a big combo from that. The range is maybe 1.5 characters. It's about the range of the move. So in about 1.5 characters, you can do a down B and combo with it. So also the down B now has a sweep property, which can help against moves that auto guard against mids and highs as well, like back Bs. But you cannot Y cancel it. You can't Y cancel this. So after doing a throw, if you want to do like jump B, down B, Y cancel, just to do one hit and turn around and throw, you can't do that because down B is not Y cancelable. You either have to recover naturally, which is very slow, or just do another hit, which is my suggestion. But on hit, it leads to a ton of damage, and it's her main combo engine. So down BA and down BB both kind of do the same thing. You can just lead them into each other. So if you do down BB over and over again, I believe 24 hits is the max that you can get there. If you do down BA over and over, you can get, I believe, 26 hits. Okay, I can maybe have gotten 27, but at the end it gets to be too fast, and instead of doing the cancel, I end up doing 2BAB because I'm trying to cancel too quickly and the ordering was not good enough. Just hitting with this move means the opponent goes, okay, if they don't stop their combo, I'm taking more than 3/4 of my life in damage. Even if they drop it, that's still more than 80%. And it's not too difficult. I can pretty consistently get at least 20 to 22 hits without messing it up. After 22 to 23 hits is when you have to go really, really quickly with the down BA, and it's a lot easier to drop. But at that point, you're already doing so much damage that it's not a huge deal. And it's funny because the thing that whiffs is this down BAB, which is one of the safer things to mess up. And if you mess this up, oh no, I ran behind my opponent. What am I going to do? I'm all far away while, you know, they're falling down. In vanilla, it didn't lift as high. So what happened was you could maybe get 10 hits or so before the opponent was able to fall out of it. And the difference in damage between 10 hits and 24, 25 hits is huge. Now the opponent knows that if they don't teleport and they're at 70% life, I can kill them. Whereas in vanilla, if Tenten did a throw and the opponent's at 60-70 life, they'll go, you know what, I don't need to teleport because she has to end here and I can still survive. So this is just a huge upgrade to her as a character in this version. And also just the down B being faster just makes it easier to combo. It just feels nicer. The other one is slow. It's like, like that's kind of the speed it was. It just felt so slow. And also, one thing, I know people watching this video probably know about it, but stance breaking, this is one example of why it's really important. So if you don't stance break and you just stay in this stance and go straight to the next move, your combo is going to super prorate. So 22 hits, and it's up to about 25% of Neji's chakra bar. But if you stance break by moving out of it first, or just by doing down forward, now you just hold down forward and do it. You just did more than a chakra's bar worth of extra damage. So be careful. Always try to stance break if possible with everything. You'll keep your damage high, and Tenten needs this damage in order to just be extremely oppressive, which she is. So, why is her 2B good aside from that? Well, it's also how she combos into super very easily. So, down B, A, she sets a trap, and she can combo into super. She can also do a cancel and do a trap, and still combo into super. It's quite good. Depending on the opponent, if you're at too many hits, you're not going to be able to combo with the trap because they'll fall to the ground faster and the trap won't hit them. So in general, if your opponent is at 4 hits or so before doing down B, A, then you should be able to combo into super. The trap will send them up flying and you can combo into super. Generally. There are characters who are lighter than others who combo easier. For example, Neji, you can do 5 hits. And you can still combo. And the reason that that works is because in this game, they sped up her standing X. So they sped up her super. So her super goes faster now, it runs faster. So it allows you to actually do less hits and hit confirm much, much easier than before. Alright, next I'm going to talk about down BAB. So down BAB is just down BA, and instead of setting a trap, she'll do a flip from behind. And then if you press B again, she'll do a front kick. Usually when I do it, it's an accident, as you saw. I'm usually doing this, and then around 20 hits in, timing gets too quick, and I end up just backflipping. However, there are times when my opponent R-teleports, and I end up behind them, and I can get a throw, or I can get a back turn hit or something. So that's one of those things that if it happens, it's nice, but don't plan on it because it's really, really bad against L teleports. Yeah, that's super punishable. The only way I could really get out of that and see myself able to survive is if they don't punish fast enough and I'm able to do the kick and just run away from them. So, one downside to down B AA is how terrible it is on whiff or if the opponent teleports. So for example, if you do down B AA and your opponent goes behind you, she's just sitting there and she literally just takes a little jump back right into you saying, please throw me, please punch me, please do whatever you want to me. Just be kind. So my suggestion is actually, if you don't know whether your opponent's going to get hit or not, do down BAY on block. So if you do down BAY on block, you can obviously see that it hit, and you can just continue to do the combo. You don't need to do fancy jump B. That's okay. It's a good option if you know it's going to hit. But if you're not sure whether it's going to hit or not, just do down BA and then just continue to do just any combo that will keep them juggled. And the reason that it's good is because if you do down BA and you cancel with the Y, there's nothing wrong with that. you know, you're still all right. You don't lose chakra just because you pressed the Y and they blocked. And while it is punishable, it's quite safe. The only way your opponent is going to punish that is if they're hitting the button right away. So if I do down BAY and my opponent really, really quickly does a jump B, then yes, they will hit me. But if they do it a little slow, Tenten can block. So they have to know that Tenten is going to even do that. And usually the only way that they do that is because they're mashing back B. And if they're mashing back B when you're doing this, and then they get their B, then, you know, sure. But, of course, down BAB actually punishes that, which is funny. Because otherwise, doing down BAB is actually just not a great option, because now I'm just far away from them. And if I did hit, and I did down BAB, then yeah, good job. I just took my combo that could have done a ton of damage and just shot myself away from them. So if you really want to be careful, if you're at a pixel of life and you want to be super careful and you only need to hit the opponent once, well then you shouldn't do down B. But if you are doing it, then down BAB might be an okay option. Especially because if it does hit and your opponent goes like, oh, I just need an R teleport, haha! Oh wait, they hit me anyways. So, you know, it works sometimes, it doesn't work other times. But I would say try implementing down BAY into your game. Just neutral down BAY. Your opponent's running at you, you don't know if it's going to work, just do down BAY. You know, and if they block it, then so what? And if your opponent blocks it and they do a move that's too slow, then you can punish that, you know? Oh, good, a punish. And now your down BAY led into a punish. Yeah, obviously you can't punish there, they can move, but still, if you can keep the pressure and stay safe, then it's great. And if your opponent just continues to mash, then, and they're punishing that every time, then yeah, maybe think about just doing down BB. And then if they start to try to punish, then, because you can't, the opponent's not going to be able to tell, okay, they're going to do A or B here and then C on reaction, because they have to already be mashing the B in order to even hit Tenten there. So you can just do down BB, and then that'll punish them. But, so on block, down BA is alright. If your opponent has an air move like Tenten's jump B, then yeah, they can just see themselves in the air and then land with it. But otherwise, it's an alright tool, and it can lead into heavy damage. And also, when using it, one thing you need to be careful about is your position relative to the wall. So let's go on a stage that's a lot smaller than this one. So in this stage, there's corners and it's small. If you do down B, A, a lot of times the trap won't hit the opponent. If they're in the corner or they're, you know, in a weird spot with the wall there, they'll just fall and the trap will go behind them. So when this happens, you lose, obviously, a lot of combo damage. Like, I went from, okay, oh, I just need to hit my opponent with this combo that combos into super and I win the tournament, haha. Oh, it dropped. And my opponent just killed me. Right? So, it's important to know when it's going to hit and when it's not. So, if you look, her down BAY sends her a little diagonally. So if I just keep doing this, I'm obviously moving in an angle towards the stage. If I do it from the other side, of course, what happens is she moves at an angle away from the camera. So you can use that to your advantage, and sometimes it might just be best to just down BAA regularly. Sometimes it's best to cancel down BAA, and then do a second one, so that way your opponent will get hit by it. One use for it might be in this position where we're parallel to the wall. So doing it once will still allow the combo to work, but if we're parallel to the wall, and I do it twice, then maybe they're going to fall out of it and won't combo. So be careful. Know when you should do 1 rep and know when you should do 2. So that's one tricky part about doing down BA. And what I'm gonna say is, if you're in doubt and you don't want to do down BA because of the wall, then you can always do down BA into jump X. Of course, jump X is a bit strange because the number of hits isn't guaranteed. It could be different depending on how you juggle the opponent. So you have to make sure, even at your best, you're probably not guaranteed to have more than, 11 hits. That's about the average that you're going to get. So if you use all your meter on this combo, and it only does, 11, 12 hits, and it does not kill the opponent and does less than you're expecting, then you might actually be in trouble. So just be careful with that. What you can also do is you can actually just frame 5, 6, 7, 8 a BBX. So when I say just frame, if you noticed, the meter there was not filled until the very last hit of the BB. So look, 25% meter is gone, and then it fills back up after 2 hits. But if you go to 8 hits and then do BBX, then right when the second hit hits, you can do X and you can do the super. But if you're mashing it, it's not going to work, because that only works if you already have the meter before the hit happens. So you have to, somewhere between hitting the hit and getting the meter, but before it's too late to cancel into super is when you have to hit X. And with Tenten, it takes, I believe, 8 hits to get there. Let's see if we can do it in 7. Okay, you can do it in 7 hits as well. So it takes 7 or 8 hits and then BBX in order to be able to cancel it. So that's also an option depending on how much chakra your opponent has left. So, oh, my opponent's back is to the wall and I just don't even want to bother with dealing with, with the trap and everything. I'm just going to do this combo instead. And just frames, I don't think are that difficult offline. But, of course, if you go online, you're not going to see the same success. It will drop more. That's just one of the disadvantages of playing online. But this guide assumes that you're going to play offline, or that you're playing with a good enough connection that you can reliably hit just frames. This is not taking net play into account. So one other trick that Tenten has is, if she does down BAA, and it hits the opponent from the back half of them, then what happens is they will get launched. So it's unblockable if it hits behind them. So they have to be on top of it enough for it to activate, but if it's behind them, then they can't block, because things that hit behind them obviously are unblockable. So what can your opponent do about this? Well, of course, they can just do, a jump B and hit her. They can probably just do a kunai. Or they can double jump out of it. If you know that your opponent is going to set the trap, you can just double jump, and it's not a big deal. And then maybe throw or get a punish or something. So it's something to look out for if your back is to the wall and Tenten does down BAA. If you just land, you're going to get hit by the trap. But knowing that, though, is actually part of the game, and then they can double jump forward. And there's a similar trick, actually, with down BBB. So what you can do is also, you can set up a trap mid-screen that also does the same thing. So if your opponent gets hit with down BBB, and you set up a trap and they run forward into it, then they will actually get hit with that as well. So just another thing that you can set up. Of course, it's not going to work every time. Tenten has to take a tiny step forward and then set up the trap, and your opponent has to roll forward into it. And generally, they roll forward into it before they see that you're even doing a trap. They're already rolling forward. And that's kind of one of the goofy things in this game. But, of course, like everything, there's always an anti-technique. And the anti-technique is that you can actually do a 4B and block that. So my opponent walks with me, down BB. Now they roll forward. You can actually back B and block the unblockable trap. But of course, some characters' back Bs are unsafe, and then Tenten can just punish that back B. But it's good to just know that there are these tricks with the trap. And I'm going to talk about her down A now as well, because that's part of the move. Her down A just sets up a trap regularly. But she can do down AA and flip over the opponent. But if you do down BAA, you can't flip over the opponent. There's no flip. So she has that extra option there that she does not have from her trap setting in the stream. And this trap in the flip is good, but one weakness is if you land right in front of your opponent. And one reason why, if you've ever seen my videos and you see me do this, you're like, Rob, why did you just do down BA? Or why did you just do down A and land right in front of your opponent? Well, the reason is because I'm expecting my opponent to run forward and hopefully into the trap. So I'm like, down BA, my opponent's gonna be, oh no, I'm so stupid! So that's what I'm going for. But sometimes my opponent's like, Rob, what are you doing? Oh, okay, you're getting thrown, that's what you're doing. Aha. So now, I mentioned 2BB. Let's talk about 2BB, both on block and on hit. So on hit, the last hit will send the opponent flying into an untechable state. So an untechable state means that they can't tech roll, and whatever you do off the ground to them is guaranteed unless they teleport. So her options off of that are, she can get a down BB, sometimes a second B depending on how big your opponent's character is, or she can get a down BA, which will set up a trap, but it's not really that good because generally the opponents are going to roll away from any trap that they see. But it's nice to just have a trap there, just in case, but it's not a big deal. The big deal, however, is it allows her to combo her jumping X afterwards for an on-the-ground guaranteed super. Of course, your opponent can teleport if they have chakra, but if they don't, then this is guaranteed, whereas in the other version, your opponents could tech roll out and you wouldn't get a guaranteed combo. So it's kind of nice just to have this as an option, as kind of an alternate to doing a BBX combo, or as an alternate to having to hit the opponent with the trap. It's pretty nice. And one also nice part about it is, if I don't have meter, then that might actually be the best way that I can get enough meter into a super combo to kill. So it does have its place in the game, and it's very useful for finishing off an opponent after down BB, but if you're too slow, then it's going to whiff. If you mess up and do it too early, you're not going to hit. And on whiff, it's pretty safe, so I wouldn't worry too much, but it's kind of a waste of meter. The big issue, though, if you whiff it, is mostly that your opponent can roll forward, and then they can punish, maybe with a throw there. Now, on block, or down B. So, down BB is unsafe. If your opponent knows you're going to do it, they can punch you. Down B is unsafe. And one bad part about down B is on whiff, you don't get anything. You just get the down B, and your opponent can easily punish. So, down B is unsafe. Down BB is unsafe. But what about down BBB? So if your opponent tries to punch you, you recover fast enough to block. And your opponent, if they're that far away, then can I punch you even against the wall? The answer is no. It's pretty safe against the wall. So how do you punish it? Well, if you're mid-screen, one option is just to run up and throw afterwards. And if your opponent's back is to the wall, then it's even easier to run up and throw. Because you don't even have to run, you just throw. But it does have one weakness, though, on block. So one weakness is that if your opponent jumps, they can punish. Because Tenten's down B, third hit will slam them to the ground, and then they just recover instantly. So you can recover, and not only are they safe, they're at an advantage. Not only can you get thrown from that, you can get punched too. And in my opinion, guaranteed punches are much better than guaranteed throws. Because if I do this and my opponent's running at me, they're only going to do one thing. They're going to try to throw me, right? And so I'll just smash break. But if my opponent suddenly starts jumping and punishing me, then I'm going to be in trouble because now I'm forced to teleport or something. I can't just break out of the throw by mashing. Because in this game, a lot of moves that are seemingly unsafe, you know, if you can sit there and mash throw to break the only way to punish it, then it's not really that unsafe compared to if something is actually punishable just by getting punched in the face. So down B, if your opponent does not know that you can jump the last hit, then you're pretty safe from punches and you can just mash throw break. If they dash, they have to dash in time though if you do the third hit. And if their back is to a wall, then yeah, you're going to get punished. But if you're in an open field, down BB, you know, if your opponent doesn't know the jump trick and they don't know dash throw, then it's actually pretty safe. But don't push your luck with this kind of thing. And it's also kind of not a good habit to try to rely on moves that your opponent doesn't know. You should assume that your opponent knows the punishes, and if they don't, then don't make that how you win too much because it's not going to help you grow as a player. Next, I'm going to talk about from behind. Down BA from behind is a bad move. It whiffs. If I'm a little further away, it will hit. But what if you're this distance away? Is it going to hit or whiff? Do you know? If you think it's going to hit the like button. If you think it's going to whiff, hit the subscribe button. Alright? I don't know. It hits from behind though, and so you don't really know, and then, oh, is it going to hit from behind, from the front, is it going to whiff? You know, it's confusing. And if you're too close, it just doesn't hit at all, which happens way too often. So don't do down BA from behind. Unless you're already a solid distance away and you know that it's going to work. There's no real reason to use it over down BB from behind, which, at its very closest, will make the opponent go behind Tenten. But if you know that, it's really, really easy to react to that and just turn around and do down BBs again. It's really easy to react. And here, are they going to go in front or behind? Well, it doesn't matter because I'm just going to react to it. I just know it's going to hit, and then I'll still be able to combo down BB. So that's one nice part about down BB, is that if you're really close to the opponent, or even if you're a little further away, it will always combo. So that's one of my suggestions for hitting a back turn opponent, because yeah, don't do BBB. But again, one issue with back turn down B is that your opponent can jump it. So if your opponent jumps, then yeah. And one thing that a lot of opponents with a jumping B like Neji's like to do is, and they like to do jump B and hit you from behind. So it's important to know and to be able to predict what your opponent's going to do. If you think they're going to jump, then yeah, don't do down B. If you think they're going to try to run away, maybe a forward B might be better. But if you can just get a guaranteed hit, because sometimes your opponents just do a hit and you're just like, oh yeah, this is guaranteed. Down BB is very fast and it's a good way to punish that. And also, what you can do is, if you need to gain chakra after a teleport, toss an up A into that combo. So your opponent hits you. And then if you toss an up A into the combo, you get a little more chakra back. Right, so it's important to build your bar, because otherwise, you know, if you teleport and you just do down BBY, you're not really gaining that much bar. You're still stuck at no bar. And assumingly your opponent will have bar to teleport, and they will have already teleported and punished you by this point. Also, one note on Tenten's down BBB is that the third hit will hit from behind. So if you've ever encountered this scenario where you hit your opponent with the down B and they teleport, So sometimes, if your opponent runs at you to try to do something, the third hit will hit just like it did there. So speaking of back-turned options, I did mention earlier, her forward B is a decent option, her down B is a decent option, and I mentioned they both lose to jumping. So what do you do versus a jumping opponent? I like up B. I think up B is great against a back-turn opponent, especially if you think they're going to jump. And there's a few reasons for this. So it moves Tenten forward a bit, and it recovers really quickly. You get free down B. And you can actually combo it into itself at a normal height. And you can still combo afterwards with the down BB without having to cancel or use meter. So that's great meter gain, right? Look at that. Or heck, let's just use all our meter right now, and then just see how much meter we gain. Oh look, I went back to almost full meter, which is that easy combo. Because doing the couple hits of this is actually really important. The more hits you get, the easier it is to gain meter. So, if the opponent jumps, you can combo into either down B, or you can combo it into itself. And one reason why it's good to combo it into itself is if your opponent jumps, and you hit them at the peak of their jump, sometimes your down B will whiff if you try to do it too fast. Sometimes your opponent will jump and your down B will whiff because they're just too high in the air. But if you do up B twice, then your down B is guaranteed to hit. So up B, down B, guaranteed to hit. So you don't actually have to worry about the timing. And even if they're low to the ground, it'll still work. So it's not like you have to kind of switch. You can literally do the exact same combo, no matter how high up in the air the opponent is, no matter if they're facing front or back, because if you hit a back turn opponent with up B, they automatically become front facing. So that's one thing that I like to do. And I'm also just going to talk in general about why up B is a great move. So up B is extremely hard to punish. So if I do up B and my opponent tries to punch me, sometimes they whiff, and other times I just recover fast enough to block. And this is on whiff, right? So if I'm whiffing moves and my opponent is still not able to really punch or hit me safely, then it's a really good move. And even if they do know the exact right timing to punish this, that's fine. I'll take that punish eventually, but for the most part, they can't. But, of course, as I mentioned earlier, you can punish it with a throw, but it's quite quick, and you have to already be holding forward and know that it's going to hit. So if the two hits work, and your opponent tries to throw, then they're not going to get it. So it's fast, it's difficult to punish, it recovers very quickly, you can block punches, it hits opponents who are jumping. On block, while I do say that it is unsafe, if you know your opponent is going to try to throw, then you can just toss out the finisher. You can toss out the shoulder, Y cancel it, and you can get a big combo. It's also one of the tools that can be used mid-combo to allow her to just do a simple combo into BBX. Because even without having a wall, or doing down BAA, you can just do anything, and then up B, BBX. Because that alone will give you enough bar to more than cover the cost that the Y cancel took, and will give you back your meter. So sometimes what I'll do is, if I just don't have that much meter, and I'm doing down B, BY, I'll just toss in an up B, and then just toss in another one in the mid combo, and just get a bunch of meter back. So, as you saw, I can do down B, BY, up B, do another one, and then I can actually combo all of that. So it can be tossed in the middle of combos, it recovers quickly, so even if your opponent L teleports, you can actually turn around and throw them pretty quickly. So even if your opponent knows, oh, I just got hit, turn around, throw. So it's just a great option in general. And because you don't have to Y cancel it, you just save a lot of meter, and one great thing is you don't have to do anything to bait L teleport. You can just throw, jump B, do the move, and then if your opponent expects the down B, then they'll teleport and you can turn around. And if your opponent thinks, oh, well, you know, they're not moving, you can still do the down B and combo. So I like it as an option. I think it's a great part of her tool, and I use it a lot in neutral. I'm implementing it more. Next, I'm going to talk about Tenten's back B. So Tenten's back B is that single shoulder that I mentioned earlier. Tenten's back B, it can guard alright, you know. One good thing about it is it does have a tech crouch property. Look, she crouches. So there are times when it goes under stuff. So as an auto guard, back B is alright, but as you just saw, she was doing a tech crouch and it caused Neji's combo to drop. And that happens a lot actually if you're mashing Tenten's back B a lot, because she often gets hit in that middle part there, right after the auto guard is finished. And if your opponent does a low hitting move and then a high hitting move, the high hitting move is going to whiff and she gets out of the combo. So it's actually good not only for auto guarding, but for crouching under things and getting out of certain strings that if she was to remain standing, she wouldn't have been able to get out of. So I don't think you should use it too much. It doesn't do a ton of damage, and that's kind of alright, because with Tenten, all you really want is you just want your opponent to go away. You just want them to be away. I can set up traps, I can start to shoot kunais. That's what you want. You don't want them to be near you. So instead of doing a crazy big damage thing, just having something that sends them away is kind of good enough. I mean, would I prefer a better one? Yes. Does she need it? Not really. She's a fine character without it. It's just kind of a get off me button, which is really all that she could ask for. So next, I'm going to talk about Tenten's running B. It's a big jump kick, hits far. So I can be probably this far away from the opponent, and if I hit the button here, it'll still hit them. It's good for doing a quick, you know, one hit thing if they need one more hit. My opponent's being stupid, so I just need one more hit and they're dead. Or my opponent is running away back turn, and then I can chase after them and do a running B. Oh no, bah, and get that last hit that I need. So I don't recommend it much. One use that I found for it that's fun is if you do down B AA, it does combo. And it looks pretty cool, I'm going to say, if you time it correctly. One thing I found is that if your opponent L teleports at the right time, they actually just get hit in the face. So Tenten goes in front of them where their hitbox is, which causes them to think that she's on the other side, which causes them to teleport in the opposite direction, if that makes sense. So if it would hit and they go to teleport with an L, then they're actually just going to get kicked in the face, and it looks even cooler when you kick them in the face, and that's the kick that you need to win. And there are times that I think, oh, I've already won, because if I do the kick and hit them, I win. And then, if I do the kick and they teleport, I hit them and I win. So it's pretty neat. Your opponent's in a lot of blocks then after it, and she recovers quite quick. She can't get punched, but like everything that's quote-unquote unsafe in this game, she can get thrown. So if you think a throw is coming, you can just mash like that. And there's really no reason not to just mash that every time you do a running B, because your opponent's really, their best option is going to be throw, and they're probably going to throw. I tend to hold back when I'm mashing to break a throw, because maybe if they're punching, I'll get a back B and hit them away anyways. But running B has its uses, but it's not something I would recommend. And running B is the same as that. Next, I'm going to talk about Tenten's standing A. Despite being a projectile character, just a single standing A is nothing fancy. She can hold it once and send a horizontal flurry of kunai, which will hit if your opponent steps. She can hold it twice and send kind of a diagonal flurry, which can't be single jumped, but they can be double jumped. So just be careful about that. And she can do 3 charges, which allow her to do 2 hits on the ground, and then it teleports her in the air. And it teleports her into the second hit of her jump A. And of course you can combo afterwards. So depending on your distance away from the opponent, depends on if you can combo into it. If you're too close to them, then even if the second hit works, they can block the teleport. But if you're far enough away, then they all combo into each other. Right? It's good fun. So, the funny thing about that move, the 3 charges, is this is Tenten's only teleport move in the game. Every other move that she has that teleports is a substitution, just like this. So, I don't use these very much because generally they're pretty unsafe. If your opponent's a little far away and you toss it out, they can jump it and then, kill you or whatever. And sometimes the time spent charging it, you just get hit. And while it is nice for chip and does a decent amount of damage, it's not that great because again, they can all be jumped over. Oh, she's charging something, I'm just gonna jump and kill her. So I wouldn't recommend it too much to do from a close range, and from far away, if your opponent has any sort of teleport, just don't do it. The only thing I would recommend is this one because it's a lot safer. Just by virtue of just teleporting to where the opponent is, but with jump A's in the air, means it's just a safer move than just doing 1 or 2. I can forgive kind of doing like 1 set, just to kind of catch opponents who are sidestepping, especially if it's one of those situations where the opponent has a pixel left, I just did my super, and now watch how far away she ends up from her opponent. So imagine my opponent only has a pixel of life left. If I toss one of these and they sidestep, they just die. If I toss one of these and they try to jump it, they die. Or, if they don't do anything crazy, then I can just get a bunch of chip damage with this. So, it does have its uses, especially after a super, but I don't use it all that often because I just am not finding time in the match to just sit there and charge, especially charging 3 times. The next move I'm going to talk about is Tenten's 6A, her forward A. This is probably her worst move. It has glaring weaknesses that would otherwise make it a fantastic move. Okay, so on whiff, she can't actually do anything else. She's just sitting there, open, and look at that recovery time. It's terrible. It just has awful recovery time. And it's super easy to sidestep. It's super easy to punish by both sidestepping. Some moves just get out of it. Kisame's back B will simply just get out of it. Like, he just crouched under it, and for no reason it whiffed. So it really does whiff a lot. And sometimes it just whiffs right next to the opponent, and they're just like, oh, that's a free punish. However, let's talk about what it does on hit, just because we're here. So on hit, she can get the same flip, or hit, or block, excuse me, that gets the same hit as her BBA. It's the same one. Now, if she could do that on whiff, I think this move would be fine. And that would be a quality of life change that I would like. But, I'm okay with it. I don't want her to be more gorilla than she already is. And on hit, it just goes into forward B, which is the same as her forward B. So if you noticed, the opponent bounced there. So sometimes when it hits, the opponent bounces. Sometimes when it hits, the opponent just stays. So I am actually utterly confused as to why it sometimes bounces and why it sometimes does not bounce. And to be honest, I don't really care because the move doesn't hit anyways, so it doesn't really matter if it bounces the opponent on hit or not. If you ever see me do it, sometimes I'm just trying to experiment with setups and continuously failing with it, and other times I'm just trying to do running A, and sometimes I accidentally just get a 6A instead of running A. And there's nothing that can be done about that. Running A is a really good move, and getting a bad move accidentally happens. So I would just say don't use it too much. Some people have been saying, you know, oh, you can jump over things, but if I'm just going to jump over things and punish, I'll just do jumping B. Like, why not just do that? Or why not just jump back and do shanks? Because this is just a much better punish. So, don't worry about forward A. Next, I'm going to talk about her back A. So her back A is great. It used to be a regular counter, and now it automatically comes out just from doing the move. She comes out and she launches 3 kunai. So sometimes when doing this move, all 3 will hit, and then sometimes I'll notice just things start just whiffing. Like my opponent is just moving, you know, they're just walking, just whiffs. But it does whiff on sidestep. Your opponent sidesteps, they'll generally not be able to get hit. Even though it looks like it should hit them, it does not. So running sidestep is actually a good countermeasure to back A. If your opponent's just doing a lot of back A, running sidestep is a great tactic against it. But if you're Tenten, when should you use it? So if you're this distance away, your opponent's probably sidestepping anyways, because guess what? They're already sidestepping anyways. But if you're this distance away, your opponent goes, ooh, I'm going to punch you, and that's when 4A really shines. Which is ironic because it got taken away from a counter, and I think the best use is to bait punches and stuff. So sometimes I'll get close, and then I will back A and hit them, which is essentially what her counter would have done there. But it's pretty cool just to have it anyways, and sometimes your opponent just gets flustered and they just get hit by it, they don't block it full screen, and you get free damage. So it's pretty cool. It's great for zoning, one of her better tools because of the jump back, but it's not something to abuse because it's pretty easy to sidestep, and running sidestep punish is also a thing. So sometimes if your opponent's doing it, you get a free punish. Other times you can get maybe even a free super. And it's just one of those things where if you're very predictable with it and you're not careful, then your opponent is going to be able to read it and punish it. If you use it properly and you don't overuse it, then it's a great tool. Next, I'm going to talk about Tenten's Up A. Up A is a generic Up A. It can be used against, you know, opponents jumping, and then you can combo after it, whatever. Up A's aren't anything special to me. I think generally if my opponent is back turned and they jump, instead of doing Up A, which is fine, I am going to tend to do Up B. But after an Up A, I like to do a forward B, because forward B hits pretty far away, and you can still combo into down B afterwards. Yes, it's pretty prorated at that point, but everything's prorated just because you're doing Up A's anyways. But generally, I prefer to just do Up B in this kind of situation. It's just more reliable to me, and it's less punishable if your opponent is on the ground and you do it than it is. And it's definitely more damage. So there are other applications for an 8A, but it's not really important. AA is more of an anti-Tenten, where if I'm just doing jump A's, you running sidestep and then you Up A, and you hit her while she's in the air tossing kunai in this direction. But aside from that, and play against other Tentens and other characters like Sakura, then she doesn't really use it too much. It's probably my least used move with Tenten. And after a throw, a lot of characters can do that and then combo, but Tenten just has her jump B anyways, which is a better option. So I'm not saying don't use it, but I'm also not saying that I do use it. Alright, next I'm going to talk about her running A. So her running A is great because her running A combos into a BB, and she doesn't really lose momentum as she's running. Actually, she can running A into more running A into BB. Yay! So it's pretty effective at helping her get in. If it doesn't hit, you can still pressure the opponent. It doesn't really have a ton of block stun, So one thing she can do is she can do a running A and guard partway through. If I do a running A, just block immediately. So it's pretty cool, it's pretty safe because of that. And you can actually just go into other moves too. You're not really going to need to go into other moves that often, but it is possible. Next, I'm going to talk about Tenten's jumping B. On hit, Tenten's jumping B launches the opponent. And they get launched in such a way that they can't tech roll. Other characters like Sakon Ukon, if they hit you with the jumping B, then you can tech roll just like that, and then they don't get a combo. So even if they try to do a follow-up, they're just going to fail. And sometimes, against certain characters, if they do a jumping move like that and then whiff a BB, it lets you tech roll, get up, throw them, or punch them before they're able to recover. With Tenten, you don't have to worry about that. You're automatically getting the hit. And it has advantage on block. When it blocks it, you get a throw. If they try to punish you with the punch, your punch will beat theirs. Overall, though, on whiff, you can punish it with the throw. You can sidestep her jumping B. You can sidestep her jumping B, and you can throw punish on landing. But overall, it's still a great move. It's super easy to hit confirm. And it really does lead into just about any follow-up. It's good both offensively and defensively. Offensively, if my opponent is just throwing stuff out, I just jump over them and jump B. Defensively, if your opponent is trying to pressure you and you're trying to jump out, then you can just defensively do it. So it just gives her more options, and it's a scary option because it's just a really solid move in general. It does have a slight hitbox behind her. It's not super reliable. If you hit too high or too low, it doesn't work. But it does kind of tend to work more often if you're jumping diagonally back into the opponent. If you're just jumping up behind the opponent regularly, then I have not found it to work too much. Yeah. See? But jump diagonally back, boom. So I don't use the backturned hit very often, but it does exist. So just know that it will sometimes hit if you try to, say, jump at Tenten. So another way that you can use jump B is to punish a wake-up kick. You just jump and then you get a nice punish. You don't need to do anything fancy. You don't need any crazy timing just to be able to go just punish a wake-up kick. If you know it's coming, just jumping B is a really good option. And also it's just a good option in general. One way it's good also is it's good in combos. After a throw, a jump B is a great follow-up. Because if your opponent tries to teleport, jump B recovers very quickly. So you can actually, probably be much safer than if you commit to doing a more unsafe move like this. And one of the reasons why I had my opponent choose Sakon Ukon is because here, now they have super armor. But Tenten is great against this because she actually doesn't care. Because she can still do down Bs, which now sweep. So all that super armor is just doesn't make a difference. If she does up B, that also will launch the super armor. Forward B will not, but up B will. And, of course, he goes through kunais, but jump B will still launch. So if Ukon is just being annoying, down A, because why wouldn't you always do it if you're playing this character? Right? So jump B just has many options, and it stops all the super armor gimmicks, as I like to call them. So I'm going to talk about Tenten jumping A, and her jumping A is pretty much the main reason why she's top tier in this game. At the moment, in this patch, I'm not going to guarantee that everything I say in this video is going to last. if there's an update to the game and they do a balance patch, jump A is by far the first thing and the highest priority of what needs to be fixed and nerfed. So she can do jump A 4 times in the air. That is nothing new, usually. There you go. They all combo into each other, and in this version, which is brand new to this version, she can move forward with it, she can stay in one spot with it, or she can move backwards with it. So if she moves backwards, then you can actually just avoid pretty much everything. And if you do something like, haha, move forward then back, it actually makes it really hard for your opponent to punish. So your opponents have to just put too much effort into punishing it, and really, she can just sit up here going, I'm just throwing kunai all day. And really, your opponent is forced to just sidestep. Because that's really the only thing that does well against it, is sidestep. But, you know, it's not like you can punish if you sidestep. You just sidestep just to avoid getting hit. And I feel like that's a big weakness for why the move is too powerful. If your opponent could actually do something and be like, okay, they're going to do the 4th hit here, I can punish, it's fine. But being able to move backwards, it's actually ridiculous. Because what I can do is, I can be here and move backwards behind my opponent. So I can actually just go behind the opponent and sometimes hit them with an unblockable kunai in the neck. So it's just something that people aren't sure should be in the game. And especially people are annoyed about the damage that Jump A does, because Jump A combos into itself, and if you can time it well, you can get an infinite mid-screen, and it just does a lot of damage. So, and even if you don't do the combo into an infinite, you can still just land and punch. Oh look, that combos. It's just really easy to combo into it. It combos into itself pretty easily, so your opponent is forced to teleport when you do it, kind of. Though, there have been rounds I played where my opponent's like, oh, he's gonna drop it, and then I just don't drop the combo, and then I literally just win because I did this. And a lot of people don't like that. They don't think it's a good part of the game. And there have been times when I've actually hit with it in the air and comboed into a BBX from like a ridiculous range. You know, it's not quite fair that she can get an air move like that from far away and still end up comboing into a super from it. So there's a chance it's going to be nerfed, and what I'm saying in this video isn't true. But at the moment, a lot of her gameplay and the game that she's forcing the opponent to play is based around Jump A and the threat of Jump A. When I want to play safe, I generally just try to stay back and just do a couple reps. And even if you do 2 or 3 reps, it's still pretty safe because your opponent doesn't know when you're going to land. So even if your opponent sidesteps, you know, they're like, okay, I don't know when he's going to land, so I can't really do anything. And she can just get so close to the ground too, and just go in all different directions. The opponent just, they don't really have a good way to be able to just punish her kunai no matter what, unless you're Itachi and you just jump A without caring. And just by the nature of having just four kunai, it's difficult to punish, even if she doesn't even move backwards. You just don't know when she's going to stop. And one thing that I've done is, if I'm just throwing kunai, my opponent throws, I'll just land and throw that. I've done it plenty of times where I see my opponent run up to throw, and then I do kunai, and then I just do 2 hits or 3 hits, and then land and throw. You don't have to do all 4 hits every time. Sometimes you'll see me do all 4 hits from really high up, and I'm just hoping that they're all going to combo into each other, and I can just run up and continue. But let's talk about how to do her infinite. So from mid-screen, you would do forward, forward, jump, jump, forward, forward. So from mid-screen, you would just want to do regular jump A, jump A. You don't want to delay too long, because if you delay too long, then they're not going to combo. So jump A, forward, A, forward, A. So jump A, jump A, jump forward A, jump forward A is fine until you push them to a wall. And also, of course, you can do one jump A and then just do forward, forward, forward. It really depends on your positioning, because how you connect does change depending on where you are on the screen, how high up you are. There are versions when requiring Tenten to do a jump A right away. And there are versions where it allows Tenten to actually jump a little higher and not be so fast with doing a jump A to the point that it gets mixed up as an 8A. So you just want to do forward on the last. The reason why I don't usually do forward on the second hit is because it puts Tenten too close to the opponent, and you want to be a little further because it's easier to combo from a slightly further away distance. If you're too close, then it's actually harder to get all of your combo pieces together, and then you actually end up having to just do jump A's right away, which could end up turning into up A's, like that. But if your opponent's back is to the wall, then you can just do regular jump A's and then turn the last one into a forward. And that's probably the easiest way to combo, in my opinion. And you can just end with whatever you want. Often, you really only need to do 1 or 2 reps before your opponent just gets sick of it and decides to teleport out. And once you start playing more, you'll learn what the timing is and how much you should delay each hit. Because if you just mash everything as fast as you can, then, you know, she's not going to combo. Right? Like, it just doesn't work if you mash as fast as you can. So you have to learn the timing for the infinite. And it's not that difficult. I've actually posted a video where she can do the infinite on Akamaru, the dog. Alright, so Tenten's neutral. Everything she does is based around having the threat of jump A. So it's really important. It's the most important move in her arsenal, and sometimes she pretty much just wins whole rounds just by poking with jump A. Next, I'm going to talk about Tenten's super. So her 5X used to be slower, but now her running speed's faster. And it allows you to hit with it in combos where you wouldn't have been able to, such as the Just Frank combo that I showed earlier. And also, sometimes they'll also let you hit after a down A from a little farther away when it wouldn't have because she just runs faster. The damage is average, solid 70 damage. It's called Toshoryu. She throws knives, kunais, forks, a toaster, whatever. Solid damage, leaves Tenten standing pretty much full screen from the opponent. Kind of gives her a charge afterwards, which I don't use very often because, to be honest, when I'm doing the super, I want to do it and end the round with it. So if you don't end the round in the super, then I think you're actually doing it wrong. So let's say this situation, I get hit with the super, and the thing about Tenten is she has very low life. So I'm going to go, oh, well, you have no super? Alright, well, guess what? You're going to regret this. Huh. Take this combo. Man, it's so cool. I even did a just frame. Look at all that damage. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do to stop me. Oh no, I didn't see this coming. Oh no, how could this have happened? So if you're Tenten and you're at less than like 60, 70, 80% life, being with no chakra, you're one hit from death. So unless it's going to kill the opponent, don't do it. I see it happen so many times. Don't do her super unless it's going to kill. The only thing is if you leave them at like a pixel and you can quickly do a charge move afterwards, because then the charge move can at least do chip damage and kill them. You don't need to actually hit them with the combo, or you can even just try to run up and just do jump A's. So it's often I would suggest just using it only if you can take the round, and then just spend the next round, just try not to get hit. Just, play a good neutral, but don't lose a round that you should have won, or that you had a chance of getting out of. So I would say only use it when you are going to kill with it. As far as using it for a wake-up super, it's not bad because she runs forward, so you actually don't need to run forward in order to track an opponent who runs backwards. So let's turn on tech roll. So she runs forward. So I didn't even need to run forward at the opponent and do super. I just hit X whenever I knew that they were getting up off the ground. As far as active frames go and how easy it is to get, well, it has 4 frames of active frames. It's less than some characters, but it's over the threshold of being able to consistently hit it if you spot the opponent tech roll, in my opinion. For reference sake, Curse Sealed Sasuke's super is 2 frames, and I think Gaara's is 1 million. Like, this has like 1 million active frames, so Tenten's has 4 active frames. 4. Just right there when she slices with the kunai. So, people who've watched my videos, they know that I rarely do Wake Up Super, and I don't really think Tenten needs a Wake Up Super to be successful because she really does have a lot of ways to combo. It's always good to have as an option. She has plenty of ways she can combo into it. I've noticed that it does track sidestep a little. So there are times when it will hit a sidestepper. So there, I actually did sidestep with Gaara. If you can hear the sound, there is a sidestep there. So if you actually can time it well enough, your opponent can't even sidestep out of it. And like all supers, it's unblockable, and sometimes, say your opponent is at full chakra, and you're at a pixel of life, but if they die to a super, sometimes you can be like, oh, my opponent's going to do something, okay. And they're like, I'm going to do this. Okay, punish with a super. Always leave punishing with a super as an option, especially because she runs forward, so there's a lot of things that, oh, they whiffed, okay, just do a super and punish. I think it's a great option if it's going to kill the opponent. Next, I'm going to talk about Tenten's Jump X. Her Jump X, it can also be input as 8X, which will make it come out on the fastest frame possible, which is frame 3 after the Super Flash. It's mostly useful, as I showed earlier, for doing damage after down BBB, or for doing like down BA into combos. But it doesn't do as much damage as I'd like consistently. And I sometimes use it if I think my opponent's just going to run up and throw, because, I'm like, oh no, you're going to throw. Okay, well, I can at least, get a few hits in. And I usually only do that if it's near the end of the round and I'm a little desperate, and they only need a few hits and they have full chakra, because then their whiff can turn into them dying and they can't teleport out of it. It does decent chip damage, like all projectile moves. It's a decent amount of chip for this game. But you can't really sidestep it if she does it. The further away you go with it also, the less hits it'll do, because it does spread out. So if you just need only one of them to hit, then maybe double jump into a Jump X isn't a bad idea. But if you need many hits to hit, then I would suggest doing it as close to the opponent as you can. And one thing, if you notice, she does a little jump up. So if I try to do it right away, she'll do an extra little hop, which you can probably see. I'll try to do it really close to landing, and you'll see her jump up a bit. So be careful about that. It doesn't end up exactly where you want her to be. It would be a little nicer if she could get it closer to the ground than what's already available, but I think that's as low as they're able to get her and still have all of the weapons come out. Its potential damage is very high if it's hit optimally, and it does use only 75% meter, so it is an option. And as I showed earlier, if Tenten gets hit, Tenten teleports, I need to hit my opponent with something, and I don't have enough meter to combo into a regular X, so doing down BBB will allow me to have enough meter to combo into jump X. And sometimes when I'm doing a combo, I'm like, oh man, I'm way too many hits in. There's not really anything I can do here. I could just do jump X and end it. One weakness, of course, is if you whiff it, you know, then your opponent can roll forward and they can throw you. But on block, I don't think you can really punish it. I haven't found any way to punish it on block. Like, she lands pretty quickly and she's pretty safe. There's nothing you can really do to get through. Now, the fun part here is, can you combo jump X into an unsubbable combo? And the answer is yes. So what you can do is, you can do a trap, do jump X, your opponent falls into the trap, and now you get a guaranteed combo. And my opponent cannot substitute out of this. So you can actually do 2 jump X's in one combo. It's pretty neat. It's never going to happen in a real match. It would be funny if it did, but it's not going to. And one funny part actually is your opponent can substitute after you do down BBB, which is crazy. So there, your opponent can substitute again. So I don't know why your opponent can substitute there, but nowhere else in the combo. But yeah, it's interesting. That's really the only thing I found that allows you to combo jump X into something afterwards. And the reason why they have to be behind is because if I set a trap behind them and hit them from the front, Gara doesn't move at all. They don't move at all if you hit them with jump X from the front. But if you hit them from behind, they move a little. So it is goofy. It doesn't work very often. But when it does work, it's pretty cool. So that's the core of Tenten's moveset. She has no air throw, no special down throw. Some characters have a down Y that's a special move. She does not have one of those. The majority of her neutral is going to be spent, you know, throwing out projectiles, doing jump A's, you know, poking away with BB, doing up B, or trying to get under someone with the down B. For big damage, you just go for the down BA combos into super if you need to. She has plenty of substitution tricks. BBY, up B, and then throw. You can cancel the second hit here, and then throw. Same with down BA. So there are some tricks that you can do with trap that are goofy, but they're not really useful outside of what I showed earlier with the trap being able to be unblockable behind the opponent. While she does have a weak life bar, and while she does have a weak guard bar, she's strong in the air, and she's really hard to hit because of, you know, BBA. You can spam BBA a lot, and generally, unless your opponent knows it's going to happen and has an air throw, it's really difficult to punish. So if there's any character that deserves low health, it's a character like Tenten, who zones very well, who's very versatile, runs away, is difficult to hit, and has high damage. So I think she would actually probably be completely broken if she had more health. So I'm going to talk about some optimal combos. Without meter, from 5B, you just want to combo into down B AY over and over again. And that's the optimal damage. Just do this a bunch. And then you just look at the meter. If you get to 25, 26, 27 hits, good job. That's enough damage. Doing a jump B after a down BY is optimal, but it is difficult for a 10 player to hit confirm that without knowing that the down BAY is going to hit. You can combo 6-7 hits into a BBX. If it gets to about 8 or 9 hits before you do a jump B, then they're probably going to fall out. So be careful. But if it's, you know, 5, 6 hits, then you can combo no problem. 7 hits is weird because it really just depends on the character. Some characters fall out of it and some characters don't. If you have a wall there, you're fine though. So now I'm going to talk about anti-teleport combos, anti-K and J combos. So if your opponent teleports, they do a K and J, and they're at 70%, 75% chakra. If you throw, jump B, down BAY, down BAA, X. They can't teleport out of that. That's probably the most damage you're going to get for 49% chakra given to the opponent or less. And, you know, that's fine damage. You only need to do a few hits before that. So honestly, if you just do a few hits before that, and then you do this, and then you throw them, then yeah, you know, heck, you can even just do an easy combo there, depending on how much health they have left. But if they have no chakra, so you can do jump B, get an extra jump B rep, and then you can combo into super. So it's the same as the other combo, but it gives more than 50% meter, meaning you would not be able to use it if your opponent had 100 meter and they teleported. Only if they have exactly 75% meter when they teleport, or they just somehow use their bar. As I showed earlier, the Just Frame combo is also pretty cool. And the reason why that works and the up B one does not work is because they start off a little higher in the air when I am able to hit with the BB, but it requires Just Frame timing. So if your opponent has no meter, then this is the combo I suggest. It does involve a Just Frame, but it gives a little less than 70% chakra, and it does the most damage that I think it's possible for her to do guaranteed before doing a super. Of course, this is always a combo. But it's your opponent will just be able to teleport out of it eventually. So you know, just expect to get hit if they teleport out of it, which is fine. Or you can just try to just kunai behind them. But it's just so good that everything else that I talked about just kind of pales in importance to just how good jumping A is. So you would think that BB and down BB are the most important things she has, just based off how much time I spent talking about them. But really, jump A is what you need to focus on. If you make your jump A game really, really good, and then you can use jump A to complement it, or use jump B to complement your jump A, then your Tenten is going to be really good. And then aside from that, just make yourself difficult to hit. If you make yourself difficult to hit, your opponent has to start doing stuff. And if your opponent starts doing stuff and making mistakes, then you can combo them for the win. So it is, overall, I think Tenten is a fun character. She's great. She has a lot of options both on the ground and in the air. She does have a couple of bad matchups. Itachi's the worst. Kenkuro and Curse Sealed Sasuke are also not great. But her being a top tier, it does mean that she just kind of has some matchups where the opponent can't really do much because they just don't have a good way to get around her jump A's. And usually it's characters that lack a standing teleport, like a back A that just teleports right behind her. But overall, Tenten is one of the least popular characters in terms of how much people enjoy playing against them. Characters that people hate, if there's a ranking for that, I think Itachi is the most hated, followed by Ino, and Tenten is probably next on that list because it is annoying that she says, okay, you have to play my game. You can't just run in, you just gotta sit there sidestepping while I'm tossing kunai. And a lot of people just don't really like playing against that. So you might just play against an opponent who's, you know, a mid-level player, and they just don't want to deal with that. They might say, you know what, I don't mind playing against you, you're a fine person, but I don't like playing against your character, and I'm just gonna, I'm done. I'm done with this set. I don't want to do it anymore. And if you can accept that, you might get some hate because you're playing a character that's really good. Like, Tenten was alright before. I think she was just barely out of top 10 in vanilla. But in this game, I think she's, you know, very, very much in the top 10 easily. And if you can deal with your opponent's, you know, hate and all the hate that you get on the forum from people saying Tenten's annoying, Tenten players suck, you know, you're ruining the game, then I think it's fine to play her. But overall, though, she's a character that has more than she should, and take advantage of it while she's here. Alright, thanks for watching my guide, and take it easy.